Earlier we looked at the camera head, the Pye Mk VII, and now we're going to have a look at the CCU which is required to operate it. It comes in two portions. There's the operational control panel, predictably with all the controls on it, and the CCU and power supply unit at the bottom, with not much in the way of controls, but a meter so that we can measure the various parameters of the power supply. Now, the OCP, the principal control, is the exposure there, which operates the iris on the lens, and by rotating it controls the black level. Along the top here are the setting up controls, which we ideally you set and leave alone, but in practice requires slight adjustments as the camera warms up or the temperature changes. One further point on the mechanical arrangement of the CCU and OCP, this is the portable case version. It is also available in standard rack mount. The CCU becomes a standard 19" by 5 1/4" rack, as does the operational control panel. And this section with the iris and lift controls can be remoted to a desktop position where you might have several of these controls in a row in a studio. An interesting operational point from the maintenance point of view is the meter, which measures the voltage and current that the camera is using. There is a switch here which enables you to select which parameter you wish to measure, and a rather cunning arrangement is the way the scale is coloured, and the switch positions are coloured as well. So in that position there is some red marks on the switch, and you expect the needle to fall into the red section on the scale. A further little tidbit of information about image orphan tubes is, and this may be picked up by some of our more knowledgeable viewers, the early image orphan tubes suffered from a problem called sticking, and that was if you left the tube exposed to a particular image for any length of time, when you panned away the image was still there, and it was a bit of a problem. This was got round by incorporating a device called orbiting in the camera, which slowly moved the image round the target area. EEV produced a better tube using a target material called Elcon, which didn't suffer from this sticking problem, and that is the tube which we're using in the Pye Mk VII, which you have just looked at. And you may wonder why I actually left it sticking on the test card. The use of the Elcon tube means that you can point the camera with reasonable safety at a test card for some length of time without it sticking. But I can't quite see 500 lines, but 400 lines, which I can see, is not bad for an IO of this age. So in this clip we're going to have a look at the shutdown sequence. It's not just a case of flipping it off at the 13 amp plug. There is a sequence to be followed, and first of all we must cap the lens. Like that, and the tube is now in darkness. We turn now to the CCU. So, having capped the lens, the next step is to turn the beam off on the tube, and there is a switch for that. There, marked cut beam. I always like to turn the beam current control down as well. Perhaps I'm nervous, perhaps it's a safety measure, but it doesn't hurt, and it will need readjusting on switch on anyway. The next step is the camera DC is off, and camera AC is off, and the overall switch for CCU power off. And that's it, it's cooling down nicely now. That brings us to the end of this section, and here is the Pye Mk VII CCU and power supply in a nutshell.